expensive. We're staying at room 13. Usually airy and usually very, and that's just how my life goes. And I don't ever try to dress to impress. Fuck you, preppy asshole. On the 14th floor and a bathroom door don't lie. So happy we don't gotta worry about the cops. We could all get arrested for this, but when the police mix, I don't give a shit tonight. Alright. Now she walks in the bedroom fast, despite all the noise from the crowd. Now she's Panthers on the bathroom sink. Her mother would be so proud. Gets on the deed and there's a line to go pee, but the bathroom looks like a war zone.
Welcome into episode 25 of Phired Up, presented by the Belly Up Podcast Network, bellyupsports.com. My name is Mike Giletto, and joining me as usual is Dom Console. Dom, what's going on, man?
What's up, man? Doing better than last week.
We are. We're doing good. You got the Eagles with a victory. You know, you got the Flyers about to start. We'll have Kevin Durso on a little later. But listen, it's been a while since I've been able to do this, so let's do it.
Hit me with it.
The Eagles beat the Panthers 28-18. It was sloppy and it was ugly, but a win is a win.
Hey, man. You know what they say? A bad win is better than a good loss.
That is true. And there you have it.
Real quick, so you know my fiance. What are the chances that could be our first dance song or whatever?
0%. I would have to say 0%.
It was close. We were close to booking Lincoln Financial Field, man, for
Yeah?
the wedding. Yeah,
Really?
It was too expensive. Yeah, it was way too expensive. But
Okay,
looked
so
into
you know, so maybe not a 0. You know, about 0.0001%.
Right.
So you're saying there's a chance.
If there's a number more than 0, there is a chance.
Hey, you're saying there's a chance, but yeah, I mean the Eagles won again. I said it was sloppy and it was ugly. 3/4 of the game, you didn't really expect to win. It just felt like a loss all game pretty much. I mean it was just ugly. I mean it really just comes down to 2 plays, right? And I mean you finally have Darius Slay, live up to his nickname. You right, made a couple big plays, right? Then you got Quez Watkins. Why the fuck doesn't my thing work? It's fine. I was gonna play the bit. It's fine. It's fine. I'm not even gonna do it. But
he's the fastest kid alive. There you go.
He's the fastest
there we go. It wasn't. It never works when I need it to. It's fine.
That's what she said.
We're starting with the jokes already. We're 4 minutes in. We're starting with the jokes. It's fine. But yeah, I mean, it really came down to those 2 plays, and obviously the block punt. But what was your takeaways from the game? We'll talk about it again. We're gonna have Kevin Durso on from Sports Talk Philly later, to break down the Flyer season. But just the game as a whole, what were your takeaways from the game on Sunday?
Yeah, so I mean, like I said, a bad win is better than a good loss any day of the week. Monday morning was definitely a lot. It was a lot easier getting up Monday morning after a win. But yeah, I mean, you kind of alluded to a little bit here. The first half was brutal. We didn't think there was any chance, really, of seeing a victory for the Eagles this week. And then it was just, I guess it was just after one big play, it kind of changed things. So the Slay pick happened, the first one, and they went down and they kicked a field goal, I believe.
Right.
Didn't end in a touchdown.
No, because they got the ball. I think he ran it back to like the 20-yard line.
Yeah, inside the 20, and we know the struggles they've had.
Oh yeah, I think it was to
in
the
red
10
zone.
actually. Yeah.
Yeah. We know their offensive struggles in the red zone. They don't run the ball, and then just Hurts missing guys. Like we saw last week, Zach Ertz. He missed Zach Ertz by 10 feet. So
It was not a good game for Jalen Hurts.
no, well, yeah, I agree. But like I said, the first half really, other than that pick, I really don't think there was anything that really stood out other than, like I said, that pick and they kicked the field goal. So didn't lead to a touchdown. But I will say once the Quez Watkins 58-yard catch or bomb,
Right.
whatever you want to call it,
Yep.
I think that kind of changed things a little bit. It gave them momentum. And I really didn't love that throw. I thought it was underthrown. I think Hurts, like you just said, didn't have a good game really. The pick he threw was 10 yards over Ertz's head again,
Right.
just like last week. Like I said against Kansas City, missing the touchdown, he missed Ertz again. I think it was Ertz, right? It was either Ertz or Goddard on the sideline.
One of them.
Yeah.
They look the same. I
Just
can't tell.
the white tight end that wears 80 something. Yeah.
White tight end, they're all white.
Well, not all of them.
It's a large majority.
Most of them. But the big white guy who wears 80 something on his jersey. So.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, I mean, he didn't look impressive. He ran for 2 touchdowns, but what are you gonna do? I said it to you. After the first drive, I said I'm ready for Russ, man. Sign me up for Russ.
We're at that point, yeah, because we did watch the game together. We were together for it, so we were kind of, talking about it back and forth. And I think it was like the first quarter or the first half went by. You're like, I'm just ready for Russ. I'm tired.
It was the first drive.
It might have been the first drive. It might have been, and just like. Yeah, he's not good. He doesn't have the arm. His decision making isn't great. It's not terrible, but it's not great. But like I'm really, really down on Nick Sirianni's offense.
Okay.
It's boring as shit. It's bland. There's nothing to it. I mean, you described it a few weeks ago. It's vanilla.
Yeah, and I just don't know how much you really can do because of Jalen Hurts' ability to move the ball down the field in big plays. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Dude, everything he does, like when he throws the deep pass, he's got to put his whole body into it.
Right.
And he's not accurate. He's late. I just think that's why there's a lot of these dink and dunk passes, these screen passes, and that's why I don't understand why they don't run the ball more.
Right.
But I think that's a whole other thing. I think that comes from upstairs, really. The owner wants to throw the ball more. I mean, 'cause I just read something recently that he ripped Peterson a couple years ago when they beat Green Bay. In Green Bay, it was a Thursday night game, like 2 years ago, because he ran the ball too much, but they won the game. Like, I don't know.
If that report's true, then like they'll never win another Super Bowl, like ever, because like your owner can't be involved like that.
Right. I agree. I
He
agree
just can't
completely.
be.
And that's the thing is like the GM can't be either. Like you got to leave it up to the coach. Like
Right.
That's what he gets paid to do.
Yeah, that's what you hired him to do.
Right. So I don't know, man. Just looking, and that's the thing is like you look at these 3 first-round picks, and it's like it's exciting to have, but like they don't take defensive players early in the draft, and like I want three defensive players in the first round if we keep those picks. And like I would love the kid Hamilton from Notre Dame. I would love a linebacker, and I'd love an edge guy. And the only guy you can really sit there and say like how he might pick is an edge guy.
Yeah, but
he
then
loves defensive line.
But then if you do that, then you still have Jalen Hurts next year. He's still your quarterback next year.
Well, I was talking about trading for Russ.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, that's true. That's all right. But he's a whole other issue because now he's out like 2 months.
Yeah, no, I got you.
Obviously it doesn't affect him next year, but whatever.
Right. I think the one guy I really want next year is Hamilton, the safety.
Yeah.
He's unbelievable. Yeah.
Who's he play for?
Notre Dame.
Here we go. There you go. So let's stay with the offense a little bit. Miles Sanders, 11 carries, 45 yards. To me, it didn't seem like he had 11 carries.
Right.
It seemed like, again, they didn't use him all that often. A lot of those carries are probably late, especially the ones later where they're trying to kill clock and he runs out of bounds twice, which is a boneheaded play on his part, but like, what are you running it to the outside for? Like you're putting him in that position. Especially, it wasn't even like a regularly an outside handoff. It was an option play where he's shooting to the sideline anyway. Like that, just by design, he's gonna go near the sideline. So that's a coaching issue for me. But
and they ran it 2 times in a row.
Right, exactly.
2 plays in a row.
And he went out of bounds on both of them.
Right.
You run out of room.
Right. And obviously the box was stacked with every possible Panther.
Right.
But even if you run up the middle and you lose yard, you're running timeout late in the game.
Exactly.
Yeah, I don't know, man. And I think I said it on the show last week, and I've been telling people for the last week or two that like the rookie quarterback, like you can watch him for a couple weeks, a year, and he'll get better at things.
Right.
I'm holding this coach accountable from day one because I don't think that it takes that much to call decent plays. You know what I mean? Like like the average Joe can watch and say, yeah, you should probably run the ball more, and it doesn't take a genius to know to run the ball more. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Exactly.
I don't know. I just don't think. I think we should hold him more responsible.
Absolutely,
even after this win.
Right. Yeah. I mean, because he's gonna wear the cute shirts again every week, which I'm getting fucking tired of personally. I don't need my coach, wearing those cute Eagles shirt. Like he's taking a page right out of the Bryce Harper book of pandering and just taking it to like a whole nother extreme. And I just coach well. That's all I care about. Like just coach well and you'll be loved. It's that simple.
See, and I don't want to get too much into like Bryce Harper at all, but like I agree that, and we talked about it before. I agree that he does do it to a certain extent, but I feel like Sirianni's doing it because he wants us to like him.
That's how Harper did it when he first signed the contract. Maybe not anymore.
Right.
When he first signed the contract, he was all out pandering to the Philadelphia fan base.
Yeah, I guess. But now it's to the point, like the Clearwater shirt.
Right.
He wore it in batting practice. Like he wore it, in the clubhouse in batting practice, like in the batting cages, like. He wasn't out there saying like, look at my shirt like Sirianni is every week.
Right. Yeah, that's true.
But yeah, I mean, just from watching how vanilla this offense is, I'm not looking forward to Thursday, especially if they don't run the ball. Like they're not going to run. They may not have one run this Thursday game.
No, because the Bucs can just put up points. So they're just going to be down from the first drive.
Well, not even that. They have linebackers. Some of the Eagles don't have.
No, they do not.
So they have some of the best linebackers in the league who stop the run. They're one of the best teams against the run. So I don't know, man. It's so frustrating. It's so frustrating.
Is this supposed to be John Gruden? Hey, breaking news: John Gruden is stepping down as head coach in Las Vegas.
Is that official?
I know there was stuff that came out about some things that he said in an email 10, 11 years ago about Goodell and some homophobic and racial stuff. I think that was said.
Right.
So that came out literally within the last hour I saw. So that wouldn't shock me. What contract did he get? It was an insane contract for a head coach when he signed that deal, wasn't it?
I don't even remember.
It was like 10 years, $100 million or something. It was something crazy for a head coach.
And I don't condone at all what he says, and I said, but I think it's kind of weird that like he wasn't employed by the NFL because he wasn't a head coach.
Right.
He wasn't a head coach in 2011. I looked this up. His last year was 2008. 2009 employed by ESPN. So he wasn't employed by the NFL at the time, and he's not currently with ESPN. So like it's kind of a weird situation.
Right.
But yeah, man, that was some crazy stuff.
It was. So back to the game. And then obviously they get the block punt, which I won the game for them, right? Because that puts them in great field position to be able to score. And without that block punt, like if they just have a regular punt and they pin them, say back to the 30 or 20, whatever, their own 20 or 30, I don't know if they're marching down the field to score.
Right.
Just with this offense, I don't trust that to happen. So I mean that block punt was the game in my eyes.
I completely agree. Did you see what? I guess it was Sean Bradley who was the one who recovered it. Did you see what he tweeted?
No.
I guess it was like an hour or two after the game. He saw the video of him recovering it, and he was like, "Damn!" He's like, "I really messed that one up." He's like, but he said like the very last like trickle of the ball, he was like, it messed me up so much that like I wanted to jump on top of it and make sure we had it versus picking it up and running.
Right. Exactly.
So.
So yeah, I mean, it's again week 6 is going to be rough against the Bucs. And I mean that's the offense can put up points. I mean they have 3 good running backs, 3 good wide receivers, a guy named Tom Brady. Like,
who's that?
Yeah, right. I mean that offense is just going to put up a ton of points. So
a great offensive line, a great defense.
Right.
I mean,
the team is great.
It's going to be a bloodbath.
It really is. They're only 7-point favorites still, I think.
Yeah.
So
I guess because the Eagles are home.
Right, yeah.
Maybe they think they have a shot, and the Bucs are coming off a huge win.
Yep.
So on a short week.
Right. Yeah, Eagles are on a short week too.
No, yeah, but I'm just saying, like, like with the Bucks being all of that stuff
Right.
in one, on the
Right.
road, short
True.
week.
This is true. Yeah, but I just don't see how it's going to be a match. I mean, the Eagles barely sneak one out, and they didn't even have Christian McCaffrey. I mean, Chuba Hubbard's been playing all right. He's fine, but yeah, it's just I don't know. I don't know what to make of this Thursday game.
And I actually think that Darnold was more of a factor on why they may not have won the game. The Panthers.
He's not
I
good.
mean, he missed like 2 or 3 throws. Like
Yeah, he wasn't good
on one of those last drives. Like
Yep.
wide open throws. So they're definitely very fortunate. But I'll tell you what though, like I'm not that excited about the Eagles this year. So it's like, am I really that happy they won? Is that
Right.
crazy? Like, I just don't think they're going to make any noise.
Right.
So why not just get the draft pick?
Right. When we were doing our like season preview, I said I predict this team to have like 5 wins.
Right.
That's kind of what they are. They're a 4 or 5 win team. They're just not good. I mean,
I
expected the offense to be better, and I expected their
Yeah.
defense to suck. Their defense isn't playing great, but they're not dreadful. They're giving up yards, but they're limiting points, which is good.
Well, you got to think they give up a lot of points to 2 of the top 3 offenses in the league
For sure. Yeah.
So and they're playing the third one of the third of the top 3
Right.
offenses coming up.
And
this week,
Fletcher's cock finally got on the stat
Fletcher's
sheet a little
cock
bit.
finally. We finally saw Fletcher's cock.
Yeah. Right. He finally got in there. You know what I mean?
Yep. He
So.
finally resurrected and
Yeah.
and
Yeah,
forced
there you go.
himself
Yeah. Exactly.
inside of Carolina.
Yeah. Finally
Fletcher's-
had some.
Fletcher's
Finally
cock,
had some
yeah.
penetration. There you go.
Fletcher's cock had some penetration in Carolina. He
There we
forced
go.
his
So-
he forced his Fletcher's cock inside of Sam. I don't know what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, I don't know. This is not a kid show,
No.
clearly. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know what to make of this Thursday game. The expectation just isn't high. So at this point, we're just gonna keep it. What's this comment say? Can't be excited with Hurts as QB. I just don't like him. Spencer Rattler of the NFL overrated. Yeah, I mean,
Completely agree.
is he overrated? Like, I don't even know if people
Rattler or
overrate him.
Hurts?
Hurts.
They're both overrated, but
Sure, but do people think Hurts is like a legitimate franchise quarterback? I think
Yes.
that's stupid. That's dumb.
I don't think local people do. I think national people do because it's the lazy
Idiotic.
thing.
It's idiotic.
It's the lazy thing. They see the stats and they're, oh my god, this guy's actually good, and he's not. He's just not.
Right.
And I just want to see.
There was a tweet from. I'm gonna have to find it. Okay, go ahead.
I feel like Quez Watkins can be a lot better too, but the offense just doesn't. It doesn't do things for him to succeed. You know what I'm saying? I think, and another guy, Jalen Reagor. I have been a supporter of his last year and this year, but I think he's the point where he flat out fucking stinks. I do.
Who was that?
Rager.
Yeah, I haven't liked what I've seen at all from Rager.
And I feel like Watkins can be a lot better. Like I said, I feel like he can be a
I
lot
want to
better.
see him more though. Like I know he's
Right, but I
he's a
feel like-
home run kind of guy, but
Right. But I think that's the problem is that he's got Deshaun-like ability where he can get down the field and get open. Deshaun might be the greatest deep receiver of all time.
Right.
Maybe even behind Jerry Rice. But I just think he has that quality in him where he can draw. Look at Torrey Smith in the 2017 season. He didn't put up great numbers.
no.
But he was fast enough to get the safeties out of the play. You know what I'm saying? And you were able to run the ball and things like that. I just think Watkins has that ability. It's just this offense doesn't revolve around him. The offense doesn't succeed in what they do for him. You know what I'm saying?
Right. So here's a tweet going back to the national media's narrative of Jalen Hurts from Brian Baldinger.
Yeah.
Jalen Hurts for MVP. What a heroic performance.
See, and
I can't tell if he's being sarcastic. I don't think he is.
No, he's not.
But he didn't watch the game. He just saw the last drive of them driving 15 to 20 yards down the field because that's where they got the ball.
And Baldy's a respected guy in this
Right.
league. Like he knows his stuff. He watches the game 10 times too, every game.
Right.
So I don't know, man. That's the thing, and I've been saying on the show, Hurts, he'll have one great throw and then he'll have 10 terrible throws, and it's just you need it to be the other way around. You need to have 10 great throws and 1 or 2. Okay, everybody misses some. Brady, Rodgers, they miss throws sometimes. I mean, this guy misses multiple throws a game.
Yep. Yeah, I think his comment's spot on. They're not that bad. Like, Hurts just can't get them the ball. Like, even
The receivers
if they,
are not bad.
right? Yeah. Sorry, the receivers are not bad. Even if the guys do run deep and get open deep down the field, the defensive back don't really have to respect that because Jalen Hurts doesn't have the arm for it.
He doesn't have the arm. He doesn't have the accuracy, dude. Every pass he throws, his whole body's into it. If you're an NFL quarterback and you can't air out the ball 40 or 50 yards, I mean, you probably shouldn't be in the league,
Right.
right?
Yep.
I mean, and you see it, dude. He puts his whole body into it. He shakes his body as he throws it. It's just, it doesn't make any sense. There's no, fundamentals to it. Where's this coaching staff at? You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
And then 2 weeks in a row we saw the goal line penalty,
Right.
illegal contact.
Yep. Legal. Right. Yeah.
Or whatever it was. Yeah.
Legal receivers. Is that who you're talking about?
Well, no, they ran the pick play and it was pass
Oh
interference.
yeah, the pass interference. Right. Yeah. I mean, they're ticky tacky calls.
They are very ticky tacky calls, but
they're
it goes
going to
back
call
to
them in
coaching.
today's NFL.
But it goes back to coaching.
Right.
You got to make sure your players know what to do and what not to do.
Right. You don't move. You just stand there.
Week one. If you look at Devontae Smith's touchdown, Ertz sets a pick, doesn't touch the guy, does it because he's been in the league for 10 plus years,
He
knows how to do
yeah.
it. Why Greg Ward and JJ Arcega-Whiteside, they should know how to do this. Like,
Right.
They've been playing football since they were 6 years old. Like,
Right.
you have to know that you can't touch the guy. Like,
Or Arcega-Whiteside stinks. I mean, that's not really a secret. He's
the greatest blocker of all
I was gonna
time.
say,
but
he's a good blocker, but like just move him to the O line then.
move him to tight end.
Or
You
move him
should-
to tight end. That's
you
fine.
should move him to tight end.
Whatever, because he move him as a blocking tight end because he can't catch the ball.
your third tight end.
Or he just can't get open, one or the other. But it's because he's not a good wide receiver. Like he's a tight end,
Right.
A blocking tight end.
I hear you.
So.
I said it to you yesterday.
Yeah, you did.
he should be their third tight end. He should be their blocking tight end.
Yep, absolutely. Did you want to go to the against the spread picks?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, cool.
I got
there you go.
my paper.
All right, so we both are 2-2 right now. The last game is on right. The last game we both picked the Colts plus 7.
did we get my score from last Monday? Because I had Monday night. It wasn't over yet. When we recorded.
I forget who I added it to your total. I forget if it was a win or a loss,
all right, cool.
but I did.
Yeah,
I did add it to your total. So yeah, we both have tonight's game, Colts plus 7. So right now you are 2-2, or we're both 2-2, which brings our totals to. Hold on, let me get it. So I'm 9-15. You're 13-11.
Okay, I'm over 500.
So you're still over 500. You're cruising. So since you're doing so well, I will let you do the honors. You can go first.
Oh, look at that. All right. So the first game I got, dude. So we picked 3 games. I have 3 dogs
Okay.
this week.
I like it.
Dolphins at Jags.
Okay.
I got the Jags plus 3.5.
Okay.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure they're gonna pull this out. I feel like the Dolphins have a win in them, and if they're gonna have a win in them, it's gonna be probably this game because the Jags stink.
Yeah, the Jags also haven't been they've been losing games. Obviously, are they 0-5 now, or are they
Maybe.
1-4?
No,
they've been.
Yeah.
I feel like their offense is starting to be a little better. Like Trevor Lawrence is looking a little better. They realize James Robinson is good. So their offense is doing a little bit. Their defense still stinks a little bit, other than Miles Jack.
So I guess all they needed was Urban Meyer to get a little ass.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Yeah, exactly. All right, you call me off
Grinding
guard.
in the club.
Exactly. That's all they needed, and they're good. So my first one, I have the Bills and the Titans. I got the Bills minus 4.5.
Okay. Bills Titans minus 4.5 for the Bills.
Bills
okay.
minus 4.5.
Yeah, I like it. I mean, the
Titans have been struggling. I mean, I know they put a ton of points up against. I think they played Jacksonville, right? I think they played Jacksonville. But
the game that you played me in fantasy 2 weeks ago, and Henry had like 4 touchdowns.
Right.
It was Seattle.
No, this past weekend. I think
Right.
And that they won 31-19, something like that. They put up a ton of points, but they haven't been the same Titans of last year that I think everybody expected.
The last 2 years.
Really last 2 years. So, yeah, I like the Bills minus 4.5. I mean,
I think
the
they
Bills,
stink this year.
Who, the Titans?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think the Bills might be the team.
Yeah, I mean,
This
they
year.
just kicked the shit out of Kansas City. And maybe Kansas City isn't what everybody thought or expected. Their offense is still great, but their defense is
Right,
one of
they're
the
not a
worst in the
complete
league.
team.
Right.
They're not a complete team. Obviously, they have the offense, but like their offensive line isn't playing great. I feel like Mahomes is doing way too much.
Yep.
But the Bills are complete. They have
they are.
offensive line, defensive line, safeties, corners, linebackers,
Receivers.
quarterback. Yeah,
They really don't have a running
game.
back. They have a good running game. It's
right,
committee. Yeah.
Right, exactly. But yeah, so I like that one.
Okay.
I got the next game. I got again another dog. Chargers at Ravens. Chargers plus 3.5. I think it might be Chargers Bills coming at the end of the year to go to the Super Bowl. So
what was that line? Plus what?
3.5 for the Chargers.
All right.
I'm actually kind of surprised it wasn't like. I guess they start at 3 usually, right?
Yeah, I mean, not necessarily, but
Yeah. I just how the Ravens are playing, I just figured maybe it would be a little closer, but plus 3.5, I gotcha.
okay. No, I like it.
Chargers plus 3.5.
Right. I have the Raiders and the Broncos. I have the Raiders plus 3.
Okay. I have the same thing.
Okay. There you go. That makes that easy. I'll write
Yep.
that down. Raiders plus 3 for Dom. All right. So then that moves me on to my third game, right? I only had 2 so far. Yeah. Third games. I have the Vikings plus 1.5 against the Carolina Panthers. We obviously saw this week the Panthers aren't the best team.
You said Vikings.
Vikings plus 1.5.
Okay.
I think they win that game outright.
Yeah, it's possible. Their offense has been really good. Their defense hasn't. So
this is true.
it could be a shootout, but can they win the game by 2 or more? Probably.
Right.
So I like that one.
Okay. There
All
you
right.
go. Hit me with your over-unders.
All right, my over-unders, the first one I got, for fun, I got Bucks at Eagles over 51.5.
I debated it.
Yeah.
I'm not going to lie. I did debate it.
I just think the Bucks are going to take an absolute fucking shit on the Eagles. So,
Bucks Raiders. What was that over-under? 51.5?
51.5. I just feel like the Bucks might put up like 35. And can the Eagles put up another 15 or 16, whatever it is? Probably. Maybe. I don't know. Probably not. But it's a
Right.
good thing I'm not putting money up.
Right, exactly. My over-under is Packers and Bears over 45.
Okay. It's a tough one, man. It's with the way the Packers looked against Cincinnati this week. I looked at that one. I thought possibly, and the way that the Bears defense is playing, they're playing very well.
Right.
And the way that Chicago's offense, that's what kind of steered me away from doing the overs for that game.
Yeah, it makes sense. Okay, yeah, I just ESPN officially reported now John Gruden out as Raiders coach.
Wow, that's crazy.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, you know what?
I see it. No, I understand, but I
I definitely see it. I mean, it's yeah, I mean, it's now I don't know how to think about the plus 3. You know what I mean?
yeah,
They got so much going on, so much distraction there. Who knows?
right. Coming off 2 straight losses, I believe.
Right.
Or no. There was one. No, I don't even know. I think it might have been 2 straight.
Did you give me your second over under?
No, I didn't.
All right, go
I
ahead.
got Seahawks at Steelers under 42.5.
Seahawks, Steeler.
That's a tough one.
Under what was it?
42.5.
42.5. All right, I like it.
It's tough because
It's but
it's
like
low.
without Russ.
Yeah.
I mean, I get it. It makes sense.
right.
And then, okay, so my last one is Dolphins and Jaguars under 45.5
Okay.
because those two teams stink.
Right.
So
Yep.
we'll see what happens. But all right, you ready for some hockey talk?
Let's do it.
All
Gotta
right,
put the third host away real quick.
All right, yeah, put it away.
All right.
We're gonna. Oh, my mic's dropping here. So we're gonna bring in our guest right now. Joining us is Flyers insider for 97.3 ESPN, writer and editor for Sports Talk Philly, Mr. Kevin Durso. What's going on, man?
What's going on, man?
What's up, guys?
How you doing?
Doing well. How about yourselves?
Good. Hockey season is upon us. It's like Christmas Eve right now. Got hockey tomorrow. So
So wait, before we start anything, what's the latest memorabilia you got for us? Because I know
God.
you collect.
A little, but not. I haven't been doing a lot lately. I'm house hunting, so
Okay.
Everything's-
tough market to do that in right now.
yeah.
We learned that the hard way about a year ago. So, yeah, I mean, let's just kind of dive right in. It's been a really busy offseason for the Flyers, obviously. Chuck Fletcher was a busy guy. What was your favorite move of the offseason that he made that might have the biggest impact for this team?
Ryan Ellis, for sure. That was the for me, it was the most important thing to go get, and it was the exact type of guy I would have acquired, to be honest. You needed a playing partner for Ivan Provorov, and that's the exact type of guy who I would have brought in. I've mentioned his name before in several different times, and I've been asked about defensive playing partners. He's very Matt Niskanen-like in that sense, and that's why it's just going to be a really good fit. And I've seen it. I've watched them play 3 preseason games in person so far, and I see it already. There's a calmness to that pairing, and that's what's really exciting.
Well, that actually leads us right into our next question. Ellis and Provorov obviously have been paired. They've looked good thus far in the preseason. What are your takes on them playing together, like as a whole?
I mean, I think they're a future pairing for a while at this point. I mean, this is part of why you got Ryan Ellis. I know there was a lot of discussion around the time of that trade. There were people asking about why not Seth Jones? Why not wait until free agency, go get Dougie Hamilton? And my thing kind of throughout the process was Dougie Hamilton was going to make more money than I thought he was worth, and you didn't want to necessarily trade for Seth Jones and not get the guarantee of the signed extension. If you had to play this game again, it's the Matt Niskanen thing all over again. You got one season with Niskanen, and then he retires, he's gone. Now you're back looking for that partner. They got a guy who's stable at this point. 6 years is a good amount of time to put him next to somebody like Provorov and say, go do your thing for the next 5 years, because that's how long Provorov's contract is. And as long as everything goes well, I don't see him being out of Philadelphia in the next 5 years. So, that's why it looks like it could work really well, is because they've got the opportunity to have longevity together.
Right.
Yeah, and we could kind of stay on the back end. The Ristolainen move. A lot of people didn't like it at the time. It kind of divided eye test analytic crowd. Both were separated on that. What have you seen from Ristolainen so far? To maybe that we could be hopeful that he actually turns into a good player.
Well, I mean, everything he was advertised to be, which is physical. I mean, he goes out and just hits everything that moves. But on top of that, for the most part, I haven't seen him play terribly. I mean, he's had his moments where he's out of position a little bit, or he gets too focused on making the hit, so he winds up out of position as a result. And I think that's a give and take of him. And at least he's not your top guy like he would have been in Buffalo. He's not the top pairing guy anymore. And hopefully there's some good chemistry build as quickly as it seems that Provorov and Ellis have, that with him and Travis Sanheim, that you can build that chemistry quickly and get them on the same page and get them operating the same way. One thing Ristolainen's really good at so far, anyway, from what I can see, it was something that was not talked about a whole lot, is he gets the puck out of his zone pretty well. He's good at the breakout pass and moving the puck out. So that's something that can help keep you moving forward, moving in the right direction, not defending as much. And certainly that's another area where he can help. He's going to be kind of a work in progress in this thing. He's going to be an adventure sometimes, but I think that's the give and take of it. You have to take his physical presence and the fact that just about every player who's talked about him says, I wouldn't want to have him on the other side. I hated playing against him. So you take that, and you also have to understand that he's not going to be the perfect defenseman all the time. He's probably going to be the subject of a lot of mistakes, and being able to focus in and put the microscope over him when we see a goal against sometimes. But as long as it balances out, I think you're going to be in good shape.
Yeah, and the breakout really was the Achilles heel of this team last year. I mean, they couldn't get this puck out of the zone to save their life. So to add that element of that, of that, it really helps, just the overall game.
And I definitely, to add on to the Ristolainen thing too, it's like the thing they missed last year, and forget fighting, because fighting happens in hockey, not as much as it used to, but adding the fact that you can get a guy, and we saw in the preseason game, I guess it might have been the last game of the game before, he'll get in the face of other guys, just that impact or that scary sense, you know what I'm trying to say? Like that he'll stick up for his teammates, and like that's something we haven't seen in a while. So it's also good to have that part of this team.
You're probably talking about the first Washington game in Philadelphia, where you got multiple scrums. You got guys who are kind of taking shots at people. I mean, I think the easy one to target was Garnet Hathaway on Ivan Provorov, and here comes Derek Brassard over to help out.
Right.
And there's this sense of, I don't want to just say kind of cliche and say just camaraderie, but this willingness to stand up for each other already that was not there at all a year ago. So that's really a great sign to see early, is that you've got so many new players, and yet they're all already kind of on the same page of, this is our room, this is our team, and this is the way it's going to be when we step on the ice.
Yeah, I don't want to see the cancer survivor get cross-checked in the head again. I just
Exactly.
don't, without anybody doing a single thing. So the fact that they went out and they added guys that, have shown leadership and the willingness to drop the gloves and stick up for each other I think is going to go a long way in the locker room.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. And I think you're seeing already the benefit of what they were trying to do in the offseason, which is this sense of adding players who were leaders in other spots. I think you're seeing that already because you see how every player kind of takes matters into his own hands a little bit. And maybe that's not quite, it's preseason, so it's not quite dominant and go out and have that shift, that Mike Richards shift or something like that where you take over the game like that, but it's only preseason and they're 3 games in and they're working on that stuff. The fact that they're willing to defend each other and to stand up for a teammate is already a good sign of how close the room could be, especially when you get everything else going.
Right, and I want them to have an attitude. You know what I mean? Like I just want them to not just be thrown around and push back.
Well, you don't want to be easy to play against is kind of the point. And that was the thing. I remember saying, and not to try to jump all over the place with the offseason acquisitions, but I remember when Ristolainen was acquired, it was if you thought they got pushed around too easily, this guy's here to solve part of that problem. And in the same sense, I said with Cam Atkinson, if you thought the team was too lazy a year ago, he'll solve part of your problem because he's a hustle guy. He's an energy level guy. And they certainly acquired guys, I would say, that try to address those areas as best as possible, which is just giving them more life and more physicality to try to be a tougher team to play against, because I think that's the ultimate goal, is be tougher to play against, especially after really getting it handed to you a lot against teams in your own division.
Right. Speaking of adding people to their roster, today the Flyers claimed Patrick Brown, a former teammate of Kevin Hayes at BC. What are the chances with that move? Like, what are the chances the Flyers look at making a move for Salem, New Jersey native and someone who my co-host Mike Gilletto quoted, bodied the fuck out of him once.
Once. That's my claim to fame.
Johnny Gaudreau.
Everybody starts talking to me about this stuff. I mean, it really is and here's the thing. I get it because people start coming at me with this stuff because of the fact that, yes, he was a regular guest on another show that I do. So that's part of why, too. I don't know what the overall possibility is. I know that it exists.
Well, let me ask this. Aside from being friendly with him, the writer in you, the reporter in you, I want that answer.
No, I know. And here's the thing about that. It's a possibility for sure because he's one of those guys who, unlike, how many names can we go off of now? There's at least 3 big ones now because Sean Couturier's re-signed, Alexander Barkov's re-signed, Mika Zibanejad's re-signed. These are free agents for next year that are re-upping where they are, and Johnny Gaudreau doesn't have a contract. And that's the longer that drags on, the more you start to think about the possibility. So, we've been doing this all off season where it's kind of the, Kevin Hayes brings all his friends to Philadelphia kind of thing. Even he joked about it. Like, I know it looks that way. It really isn't. Trust me. But because I know it looks this way, but it would make a lot of sense now. I mean, really, like, of all the guys that they could have claimed, and I tried to speculate this a couple days ago because Chris Wagner was on waivers, and I'm like, well, that's another Boston area guy. He used to live like across the street from Kevin Hayes in Boston. Why not call him up and go, or call Chuck Fletcher up and go get this guy for the 4th line or something like you feel like that's possible with the way things are going. And instead they get his former captain at BC instead. So it still added up, it's just funny how that worked out, but we'll see where that goes. I kind of just feel like that's a stopgap right now to get through the time that they're going to play without Hayes, but we'll see how that goes. Cause if he plays well, who knows? He might not be the guy who goes down after all at the end.
And real quick, talk about this Patrick Brown kind of guy, because apparently Vegas is Vegas fans are kind of upset about losing him.
I pay attention. I would like to think I pay attention to a lot of hockey. I've never heard of this name in my life, so I was like, who? So do you know anything about Patrick Brown?
Not too much, to be honest. I mean, he played in the playoffs actually last year more than he played in the regular season. So, and look, that's not really saying a whole lot because there was no minor league season for the most part. I mean, there was, but it was not very extensive. So for a guy who's been a captain for 2 different teams in the AHL, being in the minor leagues for 9 games kind of doesn't mean a whole lot. Like, that's kind of the level of player he is, but he's been a leader at that level. And again, and he was a captain at BC as well. So you think about
BC,
the fact that
BC is not, it's not, some Joe Schmo hockey school. So
no, quite the opposite. I mean, it's it's almost a holy grail kind of thing. And at the same time, it's funny because one of the things I kind of think about in the back of my mind is I wonder how Joel Farabee feels as the BU guy with all these BC guys coming in, all that type of stuff. It's kind of funny, but I think that this is again, it's another kind of veteran leadership kind of move. It's not going to be anything that's really big on the radar. It's not meant to be. He's going to probably play on the fourth line. I can't see him playing on the third line. I mean, as much as they probably would love to have Scott Lawton on the wing right now, I can't see them bumping him back to the fourth line for a guy like this. I mean, it would have to be something a little bit bigger than that. But then again, you weren't going to get anybody who was making more than league minimum anyway. So that's probably why it worked out that way. It's a low pay contract, so you don't have a whole lot to worry about cap wise. And at least I think he's kind of like that type of guy. I'm trying to think of other guys who I would compare him to, maybe a Colin McDonald type of guy or an Andy Andrioff type of guy who, like, what you're going to get from those veteran AHL guys after a while when you have to plug them in. And I really think that that's just a matter of buying time for one of two people, I'll call it, because it's either until Kevin Hayes comes back or until Morgan Frost blows the doors off the AHL and then makes his presence known in the NHL.
Yeah, that's kind of where I was going next, is the Morgan Frost angle. It sent him down, which I think was a surprise once Hayes got hurt for a lengthy period of time. Like, once that happened, I thought it was a mortal lock. I mean, we should expect to see him fairly soon, maybe the Joel Farabee type treatment. So what do you think about that?
That's about right for me. And here's the thing I don't get about it to an extent. I mean, yes, they played him on the same line with the same line partners the entire way through camp, through most of the preseason. And then that kind of came out. And it was definitely a surprise, given the fact that you weren't going to have Kevin Hayes for the first, several weeks of the season, probably about 9 or 10 games. So this was pretty much the guy who everybody assumed was going to get it. And the thing is that he wasn't playing poorly. He wasn't scoring, obviously, but he wasn't playing poorly. He was having a good defensive camp and a good defensive preseason. It just wasn't adding up into goals and points for him. And yet there was nobody challenging him either. That was the thing that really got to me, was there's no challenge coming from somebody else. I didn't really feel like he was getting pushed by anybody. And yet I saw the way that the reaction was, because it's 5 years post his draft year and all stuff like that. And I'm like, I didn't realize they were sending down Wayne Gretzky either. Like, they're not sending down Wayne Gretzky here. They're sending down Morgan Frost, who, by the way, 2 years post draft was in the OHL still. That's why he was putting up killer numbers in the OHL, because he was 2 years past his draft year. And then try to picture a guy who finally goes pro after your team is so good at that level that you don't play pro games that year. Like, there's guys who go and play at that level and then come up for like 2 games or something like that. Like, I think Isaac Ratcliffe did that a couple times, stuff like that. He never did that because his team was so good in Sault Ste. Marie that he would play into the Memorial Cup time and the Phantoms would be done. So there's no time to play, and have a cup of coffee in the AHL for that part of the year. I think he's played like 64 pro games or AHL games on top of the 20-something or 30-something he's played in the NHL. Like, it's not like the guy's got a lot of experience, and to sit out all that time, to not play a game at all from March of 2020 to all the way up until January, get 2 games and get knocked out with a shoulder injury, and you're done. And now you're sitting on the shelf until October again. Like, it's understandable if he's not quite in game shape yet. Like, it's not like he was going to be this all-world player and he's 22. Like, I almost take the Sean Couturier route with that too, where I remember hearing that constant preaching of patience. He's only this age. He's only 22. He's only 24. Just wait until, like, it could come for him eventually. And I think that, I mean, he went down to the minor leagues, played in a preseason game and scored 2 goals and had an assist. And it's like, that's kind of what it takes for him. Like, if he plays like that at the minor leagues for a week or two, then he's coming right back up.
Yeah, and again, I didn't think it was a lock that he was going to make the roster. It's as soon as Hayes went down, and even Wade Allison, granted, different position, but you could always move them over to the wing if you needed to. But just the fact that bodies dropped, that's when I thought he was a lock to make the squad. But hopefully he tears it up in the AHL, and we see him sooner than later.
So the next question we got here, we're going to go to a veteran. So we all know Claude Giroux's contract situation and how, he's in the final year of his deal. What are your opinions on what the Flyers and Giroux camp may do? Like, do we see another deal in place at the end of the year? What are the chances he hits the market?
Oh man, that's a loaded question.
Hey man, we go 0 to 100 here.
No, it's fair, because here's the thing. I'm prepping myself and I have the draft set up. I'm going to kind of write out the details of it later, but on Friday I'll publish my 10 storylines for the upcoming season, and that's one of them. The possibility that the era could come to an end, and it's something that nobody wants to think about, I would imagine, because
I'm definitely one of them.
Well, actually, I shouldn't say it's something nobody wants to think about, because there's probably a percentage of the fan base that doesn't want to think about it, and a percentage that absolutely does want to think about it, but won't realize how much they appreciated Giroux for all those years until he's gone. That's kind of what we're going to get to with that. But at the same time, I'm not sure. Like, it's going to come down to where they are, and I don't expect them to trade him first and foremost, because of the fact that I don't think they'll be out of the race at the trade deadline. I think they'll be involved. I don't know that they will be in a playoff spot or not at that time, but they will be close enough that they'll feel like you can't trade that guy. You're going to have to, if you trade anybody, you're going to trade somebody on the lower, and you're going to see like last year's trade deadline, a Michael Raffle type or something like that, or hear Scott Lawton's name again. Maybe not this year. He's kind of more secure with that new contract, but guys who are on expiring contracts that maybe can just net you a pick or two if possible. Things like that. I don't think you're going to hear about Claude Giroux on the trading block in February, March kind of, and that stuff. I don't think you're going to hear it. But I would say that when free agency rolls around, or when the season comes to an end, missing the playoffs is kind of not an option right now. And if it happens again, and on his watch as a captain again, I don't know where it's going to go, to be honest. I think that it would be really hard to envision him not being here. But at the same time, I think that the organization is going to ask some really difficult questions if they don't make the playoffs. If they do, I think he comes back. And I think he comes back on a Sean Couturier type deal, not in the sense that he's going to make that kind of money, but in the sense that when you compare it, I think it's going to be lower than expected, because they're going to try to kind of basically they're going to ask the question, do you want to be a career flyer? And I assume his answer would be yes, and I assume that he would be willing to do what it takes to allow for the team to have some flexibility on that, on the part of that, obviously. But I don't know if they're going to go that direction if they don't make the playoffs, because then I think you're going to start to see the pressure really mounting from the way. I mean, I don't know that you can get any more apathetic than the end of last season with the way that games were and the fan base was, but you kind of woke people up with this offseason. And now if you don't deliver on that one either, I think that you're really going to see even more change than you expected, after a year of great change already.
Yeah, the way I look at it is, if Claude Giroux is not here in the future, this season went terribly wrong. And we have another miserable season. That's the only way I look at it.
And I mean, it won't be just him. That's kind of the thing too. Yep. Like to me, I don't want to sit there. Like, I really have a hard time saying that the coaching staff is on the hot seat at the beginning. Like, to an extent, they are for sure. But like, to me, the shelf life of that is only through Thanksgiving. Like, if you're really not in a good spot by Thanksgiving, then they're gone probably. It's kind of similar to the year that Hextall got fired, and Hextall went like 3 weeks later. Like, that's kind of where you're going to be. But that all happened around Thanksgiving, early December. It wasn't going well, and that's when the change was made. I don't see it happening much later than that, because I feel like by that point, like, it's not going to be. I can't see it being a completely dominant October for this team. Like, you got to kind of figure, kind of like 2 seasons ago, when Niskanen was new and Braun was new and Hayes was new, and you kind of are still feeling things out with some of these guys. You're going to win some games. You probably are going to lose some games. You might lose some games you feel like you should have. You might lose one kind of ugly. You never know in there. But if you can win a game that maybe you didn't feel like you should have had, if you can keep games competitive throughout, and if you can really start to get it going by November like they did 2 years ago. Like, November, they had one of the best months they'd ever had in franchise history. And that kind of started to open people's eyes. And then they hit a skid because of everything that happened with Oscar Lindblom for those first couple weeks, when that news really rocks your world. And then they got it back playing for him. And then they really got rolling in January. And that was kind of where it went. So I'd have to see how that kind of whole thing started. But if they're not getting to Thanksgiving close to the end of November with some things really rolling and clicking the right way, then I think there's even more than just worrying about what's going to happen to Claude Giroux. I think that at that point in time, you're thinking of the coaching staff. You're thinking of anybody who's not on a contract beyond this season, to be honest.
Yeah, and that kind of takes me into my next question. You brought up the coaching staff and them possibly being on the hot seat. Do you think Fletcher has any sort of short leash, or is he on the hot seat, or is he kind of safe until he sees this through?
That's an interesting one, because to me, I don't think he will be as much on a hot seat as Alain Vigneault is, because now you've handed Alain Vigneault the pieces, like, to an extent. I mean, we don't know if these pieces are the right ones or not yet. It's too early to tell. But at the same time, you have a general manager who at least took a look at what things were and basically said, I got to change this whole thing up. I've got to go and get a whole bunch of different pieces. I got to get creative to do it, and I'm willing to do it. And he delivered. Every time I thought that he couldn't do anything else, he found a way to do something else.
Yep.
I mean, we're talking about the roster getting submitted at 5:00 this afternoon, and he found a way to get a new player then too. And I don't know how he's still doing this, and having me have to keep getting more information about another new guy, or what number does this guy wear now, and what weird number am I going to see on the ice this year that I didn't see for the last 5 years, I guess, at this point, because there's guys who have hung around for a long time that are no longer here. And his willingness to do that to me has bought him more time than everybody else, because of the fact that I think that they would trust him to, if more changes had to be made, they would trust him to go in and make the changes now, because he was so willing to do it this offseason, as opposed to somebody who kind of just tried to piece this all together with one or two moves and said, that's it, that's all we needed. And then it still didn't work, and now everything's up in the air. And I don't think he's going to be kind of unlike what happened at the end of the Hextall time. I don't think he's going to be unwilling to budge on something like, things aren't working out with AV right now. Either he goes or you go, kind of
right.
like that. Like, I think he's going to be willing to do whatever it takes to set up the team the right way. And I think he's aligned with what the rest of management would want and things like that. So I think that that's why he's a little safer than everybody else.
I kind of feel like Chuck Fletcher has somewhat of the same social status as Daryl Morey in the NBA, because like, these are guys that have been around the block a couple times, and they have a legacy now that kind of, not a legacy, but maybe not Fletcher as much as Morey, but like, they kind of have a respect around the league, like that they have to succeed at this point. This is your second, third, fourth go around. This guy, whether it's Morey or Chuck Fletcher, have made good moves in the past and have done things in the past that, they're kind of expected to kind of take it to the next level for their teams.
Yeah, and you know what's been really refreshing about Fletcher, to be honest, is that he's been so honest with everything lately. I mean, like, these press conferences, I remember laughing at the kind of the way the press conference went when everything was trending in the right direction at the end of March, and then when May rolled around and June rolled around and you started to see all this stuff really start to happen, you started to listen to some of the things he said, and you went, okay, you saw it too. Like, right. That was kind of the response that I had, was like, you were watching the same thing that I saw and that a lot of other people saw. And it was just as, like, I love hearing him sit there and say, I can't take another year like last year because it aged me already enough. Like, that's an honest answer. You're not going to get much. Yeah.
It's the complete opposite of Hextall. Like, Hextall was that guy that just, and I know the team's a lot younger, but like, it was just like, he just wouldn't. And I understand the money issues that they've had during his time here, but like, it was just like the same thing year after year after year after year, as where like Chuck Fletcher, like you said, it's very refreshing to kind of see a guy say, okay, we can't be that same team.
Right.
Well, exactly. To actually hear the words, we can't bring back the same players and expect different results. It's got to change somewhere. And a lot of these guys have been, honestly, like, I'm getting kind of my first impressions of them, not just as players to watch them in person a lot, but to see them as people too. And a lot of them they're entertaining guys. I mean, I wouldn't say Ryan Ellis is like the funny guy by any stretch. He's more the straight laced kind of guy, but Keith Yandel's the funniest guy in the room. And yet I thought that was impossible after watching the way Kevin Hayes was, but Keith Yandel's the funniest guy in the room probably. And Derek Brassard's got really good insight. These are things I didn't know about these guys, because I didn't have to sit in a press room and listen to them talk all the time and things like that. But I'm really getting that sense from some of these guys that they are really insightful, that they know the game really well, that I think they're thinking in the right direction too. Like, they're thinking the way that I think this team wants them to going forward. And I'm sure that can only just rub off on the rest of the team. Yeah,
and I definitely it's great to see that these veterans like Yandel and Brassard and these guys want to come here. Like we said it on the show like a couple months ago. It's so great to see guys who actually want to come here, and it's not like, oh, well, I guess I'll just go to Philly, or it wasn't a hot destination. And now it's like, you got Keith Yandel coming here and Brassard and
or they just want to come here
Atkinson
because of Kevin Hayes.
I mean, that's part of it, yeah.
Also that. I mean, that's also a good thing. It's good to have that guy here that right. draws guys in.
Yeah, I mean, look, I had said it after I had 5 minutes on Cam Atkinson's press conference, basically, and I'm like, this guy sounds like he's more excited to come to this city and play for this team than anybody I've heard in the last 10 years. Like
That's so refreshing.
that's exactly. And I even said, if you want somebody to lead the committee, I mean, you guys are talking about the possibility of, well, what happens if Johnny Gaudreau hits free agency? I'd put
Right.
Cam Atkinson and Kevin Hayes on the front line and just say, go at it,
Dude.
just start, and whatever it may be, it'll be, whatever you want to look at it as, the tampering committee or whatever you want to say, like, they're buds, and you can see that with the way that they interact and things like that. And look, I think it's the reason why Kevin Hayes said, I know I'm hurt, but I want to be around the team.
Right.
Because these are my boys. These are my guys. I want to hang around with these guys, and I want to be there for them as they adjust to this new locker room, as much as they're helping him through all of everything that's gone on with his life in the last month and a half between his brother and the injury all at the same time almost. It's like, how much more can you have the guy take? And yet he's still upbeat and the other guys are upbeat. And I think you're looking for a real positive season, I think is what it is too. Cause I think that when you get through a year like that, where everything was just going wrong with the team, and then all this stuff happens it had to be an exciting offseason for Kevin Hayes as you're watching all these guys join the team, and then everything else happens with the injury and your brother and all that type of stuff. You kind of want to bring that back around and have good vibes from just success with the team, I would say.
Yeah, it's good to see chemistry on and off the ice. Good chemistry on and off the ice.
Yeah.
We really haven't seen that on and off the ice in the last couple of years. So
Yeah, I mean, I haven't been this excited for the start of Flyers hockey since 2012, 2013 maybe. And not because I expect some sort of, crazy, juggernaut team. It's just refreshing to see something new, something fresh.
It's going to be
haven't
fun.
seen. Yeah, absolutely.
Well, that's the thing too. Like, I've gotten real tired over the offseason of the hypotheticals because of the fact that we can talk about all we want to, what we think a guy's going to look like. It's time to see what happens, and whether it's time to see, is Ryan Ellis the fit we think he is with Ivan Provorov? Preseason was a great sign. It's even time to see with guys who are returning too. It's time to see if Carter Hart bounces back. I'm tired of listening to, well, will he or won't he? There's no way for me to be able to tell you that answer. He's got to determine that for himself. I personally think he can, because I've seen the way that the guy works. He's insane with that type of stuff. He'll work on himself as much as anybody, and he's his own worst critic. But let's go see what happens. And it really, so much of it hinges on that type of stuff. Let's just see how it happens on the ice. We can't just talk about it in hypotheticals and wait and see what happens.
Right, or somebody who's insanely important up front, Travis Konechny. I mean, we've been hearing a lot about him, about how he's potential guy to get traded for, a big blockbuster move. I mean, it's time for him to shit or get off the pot at this point, right?
I mean, kind of. Look, I don't think that last year was reflective of what he is, and that's part of it. I think that everybody had a rough year, and it just snowballed out of control. I think that was the in Elliot Friedman's 32 Thoughts, he had said something similar, where it's like everything. It just was a massive disaster after another kind of like season. And I understand that. I saw it happening in front of me. I mean, I pretty much was down there every home game of the year last year, and I saw how everything was over the course of that time. And the first month was kind of getting by. They did okay. They weren't playing their best, but they were winning, and that still cures some of the problems. You're winning games, so you're there. You're hanging around the top of the division. It looks good. And it just never got corrected, never got back off the ground again, and it was tough to watch at the end. It was just really tough to watch, and that's part of the problem. So like now you see all these new guys, and you see this newfound energy, and that's what's great. You want to find this newfound energy. You want to see that this team is excited about a season again, and excited about the fact that they do get a clean slate. So that's where I think everything is right now, and that's why it's really exciting. It was exciting in the first place to have the preseason even get started for that reason, because it was a way to just get a look at some of these guys in the beginning and start to think about what could be. And I mean, certainly, let's put it this way. I know that last preseason game wasn't perfect by any stretch for a lot of guys, but if you didn't get excited watching Cam Atkinson steal a puck at his own blue line, go in, know he's going to shoot, and know he's going to pick a spot and do it. I mean, how are you not excited by that? Because, and I would say, get used to that, because that's the type of player he is. And I think that's what people already, I think, love him. And he hasn't even really technically played a game yet. Like he's played the preseason games. It doesn't count yet. Like for real, that people love him already. And I think people are going to love a lot of guys on this team. They're going to love Keith Yandel's personality. They're going to love Ristolainen's physical side because it was missing last year. They're going to love having even guys who just care, because Brassard cares and Ellis cares. And you want that.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about the positives and we talked about the changes. But like, what are your biggest concerns for this team? I mean, for me, it's the center depth. I think they just don't have much after the first couple guys, especially with Hayes going down. But whether it's the center depth or maybe Ristolainen, the goaltending, what's your biggest concern for the team?
It's kind of a layered question for me because I kind of separate some by the storylines I have going in and some by the concerns. So to answer the question on the concern for me going in based on what I watched in the preseason is penalty kill. That's the biggest concern to me. Center depth is definitely an issue in the beginning, and my concern, I guess, with that area would be not necessarily the beginning of the season and trying to get through it with the depth that they have, but when Kevin Hayes does come back, what kind of player do you get from there? Because it's not exactly an easy injury to come back from. So that would be a concern. Like goaltending is the biggest storyline, but I don't feel like based on what I saw in the 2 games in the preseason, I don't have a lot of concerns about Carter Hart right now.
Right.
I'd love to just see a carryover is about it. And that's all that really, that's about the last test that's left for him is carry it over into the regular season. What I saw in the preseason, and things are in much better shape. I certainly don't want to be giving the reins over to Martin Jones for more than I have to. I thought he had a better preseason than social media made it out to be. I mean, he was kind of up against it in Boston and against the Islanders on the road when you're playing their A lineup with your B lineup.
Right.
That's not fair to judge his nights based off of that. Could he have been better in some of the others? Yeah, sure. But I thought he played a really good game against Washington's B team in Philadelphia and had a really good game, and it showed based on his numbers. So you just don't want him playing all of the games. That's kind of the thing. It's just the penalty kill did not do anything to change up how I felt from a year ago. That's kind of why I'm picking that more than anything. Like Carter Hart changed the way I feel about the goaltending with the way his preseason went. So now I don't feel like it's as big of a concern because I see signs that he's back to where he was 2 seasons ago. I feel like their center depth is something they're going to have to work through, but it's not Sean Couturier that's down. So that kind of helps because they did play without him for a stretch last season.
Yep. And
I think that Brassard could surprise some people in the beginning. You need him to be as energetic and involved in the play as he was in the preseason, because he kind of did start to. I think that he was a little more invisible in that last preseason game, but the first couple he played, he was really noticeable in a lot of good ways. So if he can fill that gap that way for just a little bit, maybe until Hayes comes back, or again, if Morgan Frost can kind of come in and take the reins again and kind of run with an opportunity, maybe that calms some of that fear as well. But that's, to me, those like the 2 biggest storylines to me were, again, goaltending and Carter Hart and probably putting Ellis next to Provorov and finding that stability on the top pairing. But that's more a thing that I feel more confident in based on what I've watched in the preseason, as opposed to concern where the penalty kill just didn't have success. And that's why it's a concern. Like they're not doing a lot to have success. The power play was a little more encouraging than the penalty kill, but they still need to start finishing. They can't just have good puck movement and say, well, it's getting better. Eventually you got to start scoring goals.
Yep.
So that's probably the biggest concerning area to me.
So I kind of want to circle back a little bit. So, going back to the young guys, obviously this team added a lot of veterans this year, so they didn't have to rely on the young guys like they did the last couple of years. But what guys are you keeping your eye out on this year? Like not only to come up, but maybe even have an impact on this team? Possibly.
Well, it's a shame to start with this because of the fact that the guy I was looking most forward to seeing, honestly, was Wade Allison. I thought he was poised to have a really big year, and that I happened to be at that rookie game when he got hurt, and we didn't get to see it because it was for us, it would have been the near side opposite corner, so we're all straining to look, and all we got was here he comes like crawling across the ice at the blue line down there, crawling toward the bench, and it just didn't look good. To be honest, I think they're lucky that it was only an ankle sprain because of the fact that I thought it was an ACL, to be honest. Like I saw the knee bend a little bit and I'm like, this doesn't look good. I'm waiting for the season ending thing to happen or something like that. So the fact that he could come back is good. I just think they would have loved to have had him in there from the very beginning, because then who knows what your power play would look like, because he was going to factor into that. He was going to factor into one of the middle 6 lines for sure. Like it was going to be that kind of thing. It was like, it's a shame that he's not around. I mean, you could say the same thing for Tanner Lazinski too. I mean, he was a guy who I think people were going to watch for, maybe not on the same level as Wade Allison in terms of production, but he was going to have a role, and now he's pretty much done for the year at this point. So I don't really know. Like I'd say anticipate Cam York, but I think that they're going to keep Cam York down there for a little while, just because I think he needs molding. He didn't really stand out like I would have wanted him to in the preseason. So Frost is probably the top guy to come up, just because of the fact that I think he's got a lot. If you're looking for a guy who I don't think he's going to he's not going to see NHL time this year, more than likely. Actually, two guys then who probably aren't going to see NHL time, but I think they're going to stick with the Phantoms based on what I've seen so far. Tyson Forrester really had a good camp, and I don't think he's definitely not ready for the NHL yet. He's got an NHL ready shot, but he doesn't have everything else NHL ready yet. But he certainly looks like he can play the part in the AHL so far. And I would keep him on the radar as an outside candidate to kind of maybe make an appearance later in the year, or in a pinch if they really need somebody and he's on a roll. Don't be shocked if they give him a call. And then actually their top pick this year, which came in the second round of the draft this year, but Samu Tuamala had a ridiculous goal in that preseason game for the Phantoms the other night, and and that's the shot that was advertised from him. He's got it for sure, and I'm starting to wonder if he's not gonna, he might stick in the AHL. He kind of made that a goal for himself. He's eligible to go back down to juniors. He'd be coming over and kind of doing it, but he's eligible to play in the AHL because he was a European player. So I think they might actually keep him there like he wants to, based off of all that. And he might stick around because, having Ian LaPerriere as the head coach down there, he's just as insightful as I remember Scott Gordon being. He gives really good detailed answers, and they raved about Forrester and they raved about Tuamala and how good they were for not having a lot of camp experience and things like that. So I think those two guys should be on the radar for sure. Tuamala won't see the NHL level this year. Forrester might, possibly, but it would be a real long shot to me. But those two guys at the Phantoms level, they could have some pretty big years if they really start to put it together. And Forrester did toward the end of last season, and that's why I'm really encouraged by him, because he looks like he's come in ready to take another step at that level. And if Tuamala is there too, who knows what those two could do.
Well, I'm actually going to throw real quick. I'm going to throw a name at you.
Okay.
What about Zayd Wisdom? Where do you see, does he fit? I mean, I know he's super young, but where does he fit in his career, in his career with this team? Could it be this year? Could it be next year? Because I know he's with the Phantoms, right?
He is. Well, see, right now he's actually on season opening injured reserve because he had a shoulder surgery, I believe. So he's out until they said roughly December, maybe Christmas time, roughly. So he'll be a Phantom probably at that point, because he's another one of those guys. He's like Forrester.
Did he play for the? He played for the Phantoms.
Yeah, last year.
Right?
Yeah.
And that's why I said that's why I was going to say he's a lot like Forrester in that sense, where I get the sense now Forrester's too good to go back to the OHL. He's just too good at that level to go back to the OHL, because at that point in time, I don't even know where I would start to project his numbers if he was playing junior hockey against 16-year-olds, because he would be putting up ridiculous numbers. He would easily have a 40-goal season probably at that level. At the AHL level, I think 20 is possible for him with a full year. He played in, I believe it was 17 games. I think he had 10 goals or something like that last year. So I think 20 is doable for him, and that's a start. Wisdom had a really strong start and then kind of fizzled out a little bit more as the middle of that year went on. And then I think he kind of dealt with an injury of his own then too. So, but again, I think he's too good to go back to the junior level. I think you want him to continue to build at the AHL level. Definitely not a factor this year for the NHL side of things, because I think the recovery is going to hinder that. But I'd love to see what he would have had. It's kind of a shame that we didn't get to see him from a start of camp situation, just to see how much he would have run with the opportunity. I mean, think about a guy and here's a guy who actually is in juniors, who was going to go to juniors the whole time probably. But think of a guy like Elliot Desnoyers, who is a mid-round pick, who got into one preseason game. I mean, Forrester got into a few. I don't even know if I think Tuamala didn't even get into a preseason game, to be honest. He just was straight to the Phantoms after the camp opened up for the Phantom side. And Desnoyers ran with that opportunity. I mean, he had a noticeable game for the one preseason game he got, and then he went down to to juniors after he said he never had a fight before at any level, and fought a guy down there too, and scored a goal in the process. So, he's a really good player at that level, and I think he's going to take that one little taste of NHL experience by playing in a preseason game and use that as motivation going forward.
Right.
Yeah. So before we let you go, I just had one last question. We need two predictions from you.
Oh boy.
Who leads the team in goals? And then give us one bold prediction for the season.
Oh boy.
Put you on the spot.
Yeah. Who leads the team in goals? Because there's several candidates, really, to be honest. I mean,
I got a guy that I think, but I
there's
want to hear
two
yours first.
There's two that stand out in my mind, and one of them I think a lot of people wouldn't believe based on recent memory anyway, because I know how the "what have you done for me lately" crowd kind of is. I really like, and I didn't see much of it, so I'm going to go with the guy who I saw more of in preseason. And I think Joel Farabee might lead this team in goals again.
Okay.
Quite possibly.
I have Atkinson.
Okay, and that's fair. I kind of not disregard him, but I kind of like almost have it. He's in a different corner of your mind because he's new. He's definitely got a shot at it. Yes,
my
absolutely.
My two were Konechny and Atkinson.
See, Konechny was on my mind, and I kind of the only thing that made me feel a little hesitant about Konechny, and I think Konechny's going to have a good scoring year. Like, I don't think he's going to have the kind of year he had a year ago, but I do think that he's, I would have liked to have seen him get on the board in the preseason at least. Like, we at least saw it. Like, Claude Giroux scored a goal in the preseason, a vintage Claude Giroux goal. Sean Couturier scores in the preseason. Cam Atkinson scores 3 goals in the preseason. Like, you started to see it build. Joel Farabee had 2. Like, those are the guys I think we expect to be there, kind of in that sense. And Konechny didn't, and that was a little bit concerning. I mean, maybe he's just trying to wait until he ramps it up with the when regular season play hits. It's a totally different animal, and the energy level hits a new level too. So maybe that's what it is. But Farabee's got like that sense about him. He's got a swagger about him. I think Atkinson even said that. Atkinson, I don't know if you guys have seen the recent mic'd up, but I think Atkinson started to turn on and said to Nate Thompson, who was mic'd up, he goes, "Farabee looks like Bryce Harper, doesn't he?" I don't know where that came from. I didn't know where that came from, but it was really funny. And I'm like, okay, if that's what you think, if that's what you think.
Not really, but
no, Farabee still looks, I mean, he's not that far off, so I know I'm like not stretching here, but he still looks like a teenager to me.
Yeah.
No, I actually like the Farabee prediction for the goals. I
was just so impressed by him last year, and he hasn't changed much in the way he plays. That's what makes me confident in that.
So we can sit here and say if we think Bryce Harper is going to be the MVP this year, so can we say Joel Farabee is going to win the MVP for the Flyers?
The MVP for the Flyers, that's an interesting one. I don't know about that. That's kind of interesting. I mean, usually, they might have that. They might have a reserve sign on it right now for Sean Couturier again, just because that's the usual. Although, who knows at this point? Because the guy who should come away as your MVP, if you're going to do anything well this year, is Carter Hart. If Carter Hart comes away as your team MVP, then let's be clear, you're a playoff team. If Carter Hart's your MVP,
not just a playoff team, but a team that
actually a team that could get further. Yeah. Yes.
So we need your bold prediction though, just for the year for the Flyers.
If you have one.
I'm trying to think of a good one because of the fact that there are a lot of ways I can go with. I mean, there's a lot of ways I can go with it. I mean, at this point, I'm trying to think of where I want to try to go with it because it's not really out there. I mean, I'll say, you know what? I'll say this: Travis Sanheim will lead the team in goals for defensemen.
Wow.
Okay.
And I don't know why I'm feeling that right now because they've got a few different guys. Yandel's not a shoot kind of guy. He's more the setup guy. So Yandel will probably finish with like maybe 4 goals, to be honest, even though he's an offensive-minded defenseman. He's not direct replacement for Shane Gostisbehere. Ellis will have a fair amount, but I think that I think Provorov's going to change his game a little bit. Like Provorov's going to activate a little more, but I don't think he's going to be the 17-goal guy that he was the one year or whatever like that. Like, I think Sanheim's really the most offensive-minded guy, and he's not even playing power play right now, which is even crazier to think about. But I don't think that's going to last. I think he will eventually get a shot there.
Right, Ristolainen has a good shot, and Provorov's shot is sneaky because he shoots those like ones, right at the ankle where like nobody can see it, and they just somehow they have eyes and the puck just goes in. Somehow.
Ivan Provorov also very rarely takes a slap shot, which is the other thing too. Like he's that quick wrister kind of guy, exactly.
So. All right, we'll let you go. Thanks for doing this. Thanks for coming on. Where can people find you before you get out of here?
Sure. I mean, you name it, I'm probably there at some capacity. So 97.3 ESPN is the main outlet. That's where I'm credentialed for the games that way. Which, congrats guys on getting credentialed for game by game. I hope to see us down there maybe Friday night possibly.
We tried. They don't save those spots for us. That's
no. Is that what the story is? Okay. Then maybe next week on Monday night against Seattle.
We're looking at the 23rd against Florida. So I think we're looking at that game right now.
Perfect. And then, but hope to see you guys down there for sure. So that's the first one. Sports Talk Philly, Philadelphia, that kind of thing. Still all that stuff over there, and it's it's more than just me, obviously, at that point. So Sports Talk Philly is every team,
Right.
as you guys have discussed around there and things like that. YWT podcast for Flyer stuff, Open Ice Hits for NHL stuff with Broads. It's always a lot of fun. I heard you guys chatting that up a little bit the other week. We're working on bringing it back. Broads got if it kind of.
I'm a big Broads fan, honestly.
I would say to kind of pull the curtain back, because I'm sure you guys know by now that Broads has dabbled in 97.5 a little
Right.
bit since leaving 97.3 and starting his own thing. That was in our conversations, that was a little bit unexpected. So, and he continues to kind of get more, like, I think he filled in for Missinelli one day, and then he filled in
Right.
for Gargano for a week, which is
wow.
it's a big deal. So they've given him, so they keep giving him a little bit more, which kind of has disrupted the schedule for recording them. I mean, I'll be honest with you guys, we would usually record those sometimes at like 8:00 in the morning on like
Jeez.
whatever. Well, because I mean, it would be he does a thing on his channel on Broads Media called Coffee with Broads, which
Right.
is a live stream every morning. And let's, I guess, pull the curtain back too, that, doing all this stuff is not my full-time job. So I have to go to work at 9:00.
Right.
Luckily I get to do it from where I'm sitting right now. So that's a nice perk. But
So hold on, he has that much energy at 8:00 in the morning.
yeah. after staying up until like 1 or
that's
2 in the
nuts.
morning. So he literally, I think, runs. Well, here's the thing. There's a reason why it's called Coffee with Broads. I'll say that much, because by
You
that
don't need your
point,
coffee.
for him, because for him that's his second cup of coffee by then, probably.
Right.
And then
That you know of.
that I know of, absolutely. And then by the evening, when he's doing, or late night, I guess by that point, when he's making his other videos, you're looking at another, I don't know how many, but he'll sit there and talk about how he had a 10 o'clock cup of coffee. Like, and I'm sitting there going like, dude, chill with the coffee, man. Like, not, and I'm not a coffee drinker anyway, which is weird as hell for me to say, because I'm like all hours of the night sometimes too with some of these things. I mean, let's just wait. I can't do an all NHL podcast and not be watching those late games. So,
Absolutely.
Right.
that kind
Yeah.
of thing. But those are all the places, and looking forward to a big year. A big year in a lot of ways, not just with team success, obviously, because it's more fun. The most fun I've had covering the team so far, and I'm going on my 8th year overall, 5th with ESPN. The most fun I had was 2 seasons ago when they made a playoff run, and I literally was going on the air every single day to talk more about last game, next game,
Right.
preview this, recap that, what's going on with this. And it was an everyday thing, and the team was the talk of the city, and that was the best part about it. So I'm looking forward to
Was that the
possibly that kind of thing. Yeah, it was the
Yeah,
the
okay.
bubble, and it was weird because I was home all the time. Like,
Right.
I definitely get a bigger kick out of going, obviously, and you guys will see.
Yeah,
You guys will see. It's the best. I know there's not a best seat in the house. You could be on the glass and say it's the best seat in the house. You could be all the way up top and say I truly mean the best seat in the house is all the way up top. I love
I
my
agree.
spot
You can
up
see
top.
everything. You get to see everything develop. I agree. That up top is the way to go.
Nothing like watching 3-on-3 overtime from up there.
Yeah.
And I got one of those in the preseason too, which was nice. So, but thanks for having me on, guys. Always great to talk to you. And anytime you guys want.
Appreciate
reach
it.
out.
Absolutely,
We'll have you on
absolutely.
again during the season. Absolutely. I appreciate you coming on.
Absolutely. Thanks, guys.
That's it. All right, so there you go, Kevin Durso.
He's the man.
He really is. So Jason from Drunk on Ice, right?
Yeah.
Jason and Don doing the thing. Jason asked me to be in a podcast fantasy hockey league, right? I don't know if he asked you.
No, he didn't.
Oh well, fuck you then.
Yeah.
So-
I'll just go fuck myself.
So he sent me the invite yesterday or 2 days ago. I was like, sure, whatever. It's a free league. But I'll do the draft in 10 minutes, whatever. So he sent me a message today at what time was this? This was while Kevin was on. Right before Kevin was on, maybe 9:15.
Don't
He
tell
sends
me
me
tonight.
he sends me a message saying draft tonight 10:45.
Solid.
So
Kind of offended I wasn't asked.
we'll run it together.
No, I'm sorry.
That sounds fine. I don't really care. It's what I'm just saying. He gave me like an hour notice.
Yeah. I see how it is.
Right. So we are.
No, I'm
So
already
we're-
bad. I'm already bad at one fantasy hockey.
I know.
I don't need
Tell
to
me
be.
about it.
I don't need to be bad at two.
So I didn't want to talk much about Sixers, but there's new reports that came out literally within the last 15-20 minutes.
Really?
Yeah. So apparently,
Well, there's news that came out today.
There's more.
Okay. Well,
and
let's break that news first. Let's talk about that first.
Yeah, you go ahead. You
All right. So
probably have it better
basically,
than I do.
yeah, basically, there was a report that came out today that the Sixers and Ben Simmons' camp have been working towards him returning to the team as early as this week, but apparently he doesn't want to play in any games. Obviously, that has something to do with his financial parts of it. But he did list his condo for sale a couple days ago, and after this report came out, it came out that his house in Morristown went up for sale. So like, I don't really know what to believe. But go ahead, give me the news. There's
a report 10 minutes ago from Woj. I can't pronounce his last name.
Yeah, Wojnarowski.
Yeah, whatever. That Ben Simmons landed in Philadelphia tonight.
Wow.
So he's in Philadelphia. I guess they're talking to figure things out. So that was 10, 15 minutes ago he landed. So he arrived. I think I read he's doing some sort of COVID test or something. I don't know what he's doing, but yeah, but he arrived. So that's within the last 10 or 15 minutes. I still don't see how that works.
Right. So
like just the dynamic of it, it doesn't seem like it's going to work. But
so I think that I don't think he's going to play, but he obviously came here because he didn't want to keep paying money. But I think if there's any shot he does play this year for the Philadelphia 76ers, I think he's got a lot to do. I think he's got to start with an apology to the front office. I think he's got to apologize to his teammates.
He's got a lot of ass kissing.
Especially Joel Embiid, especially Tobias Harris, and especially Matisse Thybulle. I think he's got a lot of apologizing to do to this fan base. And you know what? I'm not sorry to him. We don't owe him anything.
Right.
In my opinion.
And if he does play again, I still don't see how the dynamic works. But if he does play, he's going to get the loudest boo as a member of a Philadelphia team in Philadelphia that I could ever remember.
Right.
It's going to be bad.
Even if he doesn't play, he's still got to sit out there next to his teammates.
Right, like,
it's still going to get booed.
Right, and it puts the organization in a tougher spot because if he says, "Yeah, I want to come back, I want to play," and they say, "All right, no, you're not coming back. We're going to stay at home," then technically, I think they have to pay him because at that point they're choosing to not.
Well, they'll put him on like the injured, like fake
whatever
injured
it is.
thing.
Yeah. So if he's saying, "Yeah, I want to play," they don't really have a say unless they want to just pay him to stay at home.
Right. It's so crazy, man. how much this story has changed in the last It was the same thing for 2 months, and then all of a sudden it's just like, holy shit, he's here.
The one thing I do like is that the organization and Daryl Morey actually called his bluff. Right. It's saying, all right, fine, don't come, stay at home, lose money, I don't care.
Right. And I mean, I think they did that in the newspaper or in the headlines, but I do think they were trying to get him here.
I'm sure they were. Yeah, I'm sure they were.
But
especially with the reporter like Joel and all them trying to fly out to see him.
Right.
Yeah, they definitely tried to work things out months ago. Like not even days, weeks, whatever. Months ago, they tried to smooth this over.
Yeah, and it's like if he does suit up hypothetically, like he's gonna have to shoot, right? He's gonna have to. I mean,
when's the season start?
The 20th.
The 20th.
The regular season starts the 20th.
Okay.
Yeah, the regular season. I think so. They have 4 preseason games. I think the last one's coming up in the next couple days against Detroit.
Okay.
They played 2 against Toronto, 1 against somebody, and then they play Detroit.
Right.
But yeah, I'm pretty sure it starts next Wednesday.
Okay.
So they.
Even if he does come back,
tonight.
he probably doesn't play that game. If he does play in games, he probably doesn't play that game because he's got to quote unquote, I guess, get in game shape, whatever that means. But
he probably doesn't play the first couple. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. He probably won't play the first couple. I still don't see how this works. I really don't.
Yeah, I don't know. I think Joel is, and really the whole roster's kind of, they're very professional. So I don't think it would be that much of an issue as long as he apologized, even behind the scenes. But, yeah, I just don't. I don't see him playing though. I really don't. I don't see him. I see the ego still. I still see too much of the ego, too much of the babying. His whole life he was, treated as the star and this guy and that guy, and now that he is getting the opposite here, it's like this is what he does,
Yeah, and he's not wanting to come back because he wants to do the right thing. He wants to be there for his team. He wants to be there for these guys. He's doing it because it's hurting himself financially.
Right.
It's literally the only reason.
Yeah.
So Yeah,
That's crazy, though.
And again, you're right. The team's full of professionals, and Joel's proven all offseason that he's a leader. He's the guy of this whole franchise. So, like, Joel, because he wants to win so bad, he'll welcome him back with open arms, I think.
Right.
If Ben Simmons is serious about playing, Joel will take him in and say, all right, let's get to work. Because that's just the type of player and captain and leader he is.
Dude, that might be the biggest breaking news we've had on the show.
I know, that might be, in the 25
I got
episodes.
chills.
There you go.
It only took 25.
Right, exactly. Hey, listen, we're a quarter way to 100. There you go. All right, you ready to get out of here?
Yep.
All right. Well, again, we got a football game on Thursday. I'm not feeling too great about it, but
I'm hoping to be in bed by halftime.
you're doing the whole Dallas
Yeah.
Cowboy treatment again,
Yep.
like
Yep.
last time.
Yep.
Okay.
Hey, man, you never know. It's Friday the next day. You know, maybe I'll stay up.
And listen, I don't think they have a shot in hell, but Thursday night games tend to be a little weird. So
Yeah.
we'll see what happens. That's
I don't know,
my
man.
optimism.
It sounds like you're trying to talk yourself into it.
I'm trying to. It's really all I got at this point.
I got you.
So, all right, we'll get out of here. Follow us on Twitter at Phired Up Podcast. But, one thing I wanted to mention that I wanted to mention at the beginning of the show. If you follow us on Twitter and you watch us on Twitter, for some reason, the Twitter comments aren't showing up on our feed because StreamYard's fucked up since they transferred to Periscope. So go like us on Facebook and watch our live shows there. So this way you can interact. But, yeah, all right. We'll get out of here and we'll see you guys next week.